Welcome to Shaq's house. Shaq's house. That's our Shaq. You're now in Shaq's house. Welcome to Shaq's house.
Hey, what's up, Shaq Housers? How you doing? It's your boy, the one and only Shaq House. That's right. I hope your President's Day weekend went really good. Today, we're back on Mutants, and we're going to be talking about, I'm sure some of you know this, in many high schools and colleges throughout this country, they have usually a black-oriented organization, like a black student union or a black student association. That's what it was called in my high school, Black Student Association. Well, it got me to thinking, does the Xavier Institute, did it have that? I mean, given that Xavier is all about equality and promoting diversity and whatnot, not just between mutants and humans, but races and ethnicities as well, too. They had to have had a Black Student Association. They had to have had one. Yeah. But who would the members be? Who would the members of that Black Student Association have been? I mean, during the school's peak, during the 2000s, when it had hundreds of students there, I can think of a few mutants who would be students in the Black Student Association. 5 of them. Check it out.
Neurotap. Neurotap had the mutant power to generate a neurosynaptic energy pulse from her eyes. This attack is triggered by eye contact with her victims, tracing back through their optic nerves to give her complete access to their nervous systems. She can then cause people to fall unconscious, experience intense pain, become paralyzed, or even disable their nervous systems entirely to reduce them to a persistent vegetative state. Some fun facts. She only appeared twice, 2 issues only, but Michelle Balters was a 13-year-old girl living outside of Chicago with her family when her mutant power manifested itself, placing her parents into vegetative comas. She then ran away from home and arrived in Denver, where she read an advertisement about a research company that provided help for young people with quote-unquote special gifts and abilities, aka mutants. That place was Strong Industries, ran by mutant Martin Henry Strong. Michelle went and lived there with other mutants, getting room and board and payment for being test subjects. While there, she met another mutant named Adam X, and they became intimately close. Adam, aka the Extreme, was a bloodhound for Strong to find runaway mutants like Michelle. Even after X-Force dismantled Strong's headquarters, she chose to stay behind because her power, as stated when it first manifested, put her parents into a coma for 2 years. So Strong, he was paying their medical bills, and thus she gave her allegiance to him. But eventually she got away from him and was given Charles Xavier's card for help. In her 2 appearances, her power was used to hurt. She may have been able to use her power to repair nervous systems instead, calibrating them so that they work optimally, heal neurological disorders, etc. If she did go to Xavier, it's unknown if she went to Xavier at all, whether he continued to pay her parents' bills or if he helped her develop her power. But she was depowered on M-Day, so it's unknown. If the term, if looks could kill, were a person, it would be Neurotap. Slick. Slick was a mutant who possessed the power of telepathy, allowing him to project his thoughts and communicate with others mentally. In his natural form, he had a tiny stature, webbed feet, bulbous eyes, pointed ears, and a rat-like face. However, he possessed telepathically enhanced charisma that allowed him to create a tangible ego, reshaping his self-image into a solid, illusory creation and then projecting it so that he appeared to be a handsome and physically fit young man to everyone who saw him or even made physical contact with him. His charisma made him more likable to those around him, naturally drawing attention and respect, though sufficiently powerful telepaths could see through his illusions. Some fun facts. Slick was one of the most popular students at Xavier's school until he came across Quentin Quire, aka the future Kid Omega. Quire considered Slick to be a phony and used his own telepathy to expose Slick, showing the other students his real appearance. This ruined Slick socially, and his girlfriend, Tattoo, broke up with him and then went with Quentin Quire. He was depowered on M-Day, and his fate remains unknown. But what Slick was doing was, in a way, no different than what Jason Wingard was doing during the Dark Phoenix saga. Slick was a Grant Morrison creation, and he looks a lot like Omarion from that early Millennium boy band B2K. Nature made him a telepathic rat-faced imp, and he was just trying to make the most of it. And he was doing just fine until another telepath, a nerdy white boy, exposed and surpassed him. Slick has not been seen since, but he kinda got a raw deal. Let me put it to you like this. Quentin Quire, he's the new kids on the block. Slick, he's new edition. If you know, you know. Think about it. Prodigy. Prodigy is a psychomimetic. His mutant power allows him to assimilate the knowledge from minds of other people nearby him. Now, mind you, he is not a telepath. He cannot read minds or read memories. Instead, his power is based on accumulated factual knowledge, which is stored in a different area of the brain. His psychomimicry makes him just as knowledgeable about any subject in school as his teachers are. He has learned languages, culinary skill, medicine, world history, and even genetics by simply being in the presence of someone with that knowledge. He can even duplicate martial arts abilities through kinetic memory, that is, his body remembering the stance and moves of a skilled fighter. Now, the information that his power assimilated originally faded from his memory soon after he left the person's vicinity, and Prodigy was not always fully aware of how his power was operating. For example, he might suddenly begin speaking in another language as someone comes into his range, and he wouldn't always know from whom he was receiving his information. Additionally, his power causes him to intuitively read body language, allowing him to sense and anticipate an opponent's attack before it comes, enabling him to avoid it. After M-Day, David lost his mutant power, but the telepaths, the Stepford Cuckoos, they managed to tap his residual memories and coax back to the surface all the information that David had ever tapped through his power. He could no longer pick up new information, but now possessed a vast storehouse of knowledge. He's since regained his power, and after overcoming a mental block, can now retain assimilated knowledge permanently. Some fun facts. David actually had no intention of becoming a superhero, and he only joined Xavier's school to protect his family from anti-mutant violence. As stated before, he was depowered during M-Day, but still made the decision to remain at Xavier's Institute because he retained all the knowledge that he ever acquired through his power. He came out as bisexual during his time in the Young Avengers, and eventually regained his powers on Krakoa, presumably through Crucible. He joined an incarnation of the Young Avengers where his bisexuality was revealed, and he was in a relationship with Hulkling. During the Krakoan age, it was revealed that he had been murdered by a serial killer who was targeting queer men of color and was resurrected in the same series. His power makes him a natural detective, and he was successful in being voted as an X-Man during the 3rd Hellfire Club Gala, only to be immediately killed by Nimrod and Orchis. His return has occurred in the Dead X-Men series. A native from Chicago, just like Neurotap, he's a fan of the Chicago Cubs and jazz music. In regards to his mutant power, he's just like Sync, only he can't copy powers, just special skills. Tag. Tag was born with the mutant power to attach or tag people and objects with specific signals that broadcast on psionic wavelengths. He created 2 different signals which worked in tandem with each other to produce a desired effect. One signal marked someone or something as it, making them the sender who broadcasted a certain message into the environment which was undetectable by anyone unless Tag chose to make them receivers, and thus susceptible to the sender's message. Tag could make himself it or any person or object he came into contact with, and receivers could be tagged from a distance just by willing him to do so. Tag's primary broadcast was to compel receivers to get away from the sender. Their conscious minds were submerged beneath an overriding drive to put distance between them and who or whatever it was. The effect lasted until the receivers got far enough away from the sender that the compulsion faded, or until the sender was too far away from Tag for him to sustain the effect. Later, Tag learned how to create a new signal, one which compels receivers to get closer and closer to the sender. Some fun facts. Tag is Afro-Latino, a Puerto Rican who came to America as a child with his family. He was depowered during M-Day and murdered on the bus explosion set by William Stryker's bombing. He was best friends with Julian Keller, fellow squad member Hellion, and Tag's death hurt Julian a lot. Tag was resurrected during the Krakoan age, and his powers were voted as most confusing by his peers in the new X-Men yearbook, but he was quite popular. Well, of course he was. He can make people come and go as he pleases. His power is limited mind control, coupled with a freeze tag trope. If he had children and they kept touching something that he asked them not to touch, his power would come in handy there. And if he were to ever get with a hooker, he'd never have to pay. He'd just compel her to bounce. Bling. Bling is a mutant who was born with a mutation that grants her a crystal-like mineral bodily structure. And it's unclear whether she has a fully functioning silicon-based metabolism, internal organs, and structure like Colossus is with his organic steel, or if she is essentially little more than a rock statue, animated by the presence of mutant psychic energy, like Rockslide. Her unique physiology makes her superhumanly strong and capable of withstanding excess amounts of physical harm. She is also capable of producing crystallized scatter shots from her body. Small areas of her skin build up pressure and fracture, creating hardened splinters or shrapnel which blast off from her position, striking targets from a distance and creating a signature bling sound. It's unclear how much of her body that she can devote to the shattering effect at once, but so far, the effect has been used only in small, extremely localized areas of her body. Some fun facts. Bling is the daughter of two celebrities, Roy Daddy Libido Washington and Angel Sexy Mother Dupre, both hip-hop stars. She appeared in their music videos as a child and had been targeted early in childhood by kidnappers. Yeah, her parents are basically Cardi B and Offset long before Cardi B and Offset were ever born to the public eye. But the constant stress of that prepared her well for her life as being an X-Man. Bling is also a lesbian, having expressed interest in both Fox, who is Mystique in disguise, and currently Mercury. She was up for the X-Men vote in the second Hellfire Club Gala. And Bling, she's clearly a mutant geared towards readers who are hip-hop fans, and as such, she's literally iced out. Okay, Shackhousers, I hope you enjoyed this rundown on some of Marvel's X-Men's black students at Xavier's school, the BSA, Black Student Association, but check in next week. I got one more video for Black History Month. You have a good week, and I'll see you then. Later.
Mansion, apartment.
Shack house. Yes!